The first Dragon Quest game was a cultural milestone in the history of Japanese video games. In order to appreciate that, we need to go back to the early 1980s, an era where arcade games were dominated by the action and shooting genre, offering the likes of Space Invaders and Donkey Kong. RPG as a genre was still poorly defined in Japan during those days. Sure, there were early games that took inspiration from popular Western RPGs Wizardry and Ultima, but these were mostly published on expensive personal computers that were inaccessible to many Japanese people. By the beginning of 1985, the Famicom by Nintendo had sold more than 2.5 million units, making it the best-selling video game console in Japan. Even then, the early years of the Famicom library was populated with arcade-style action and shooter games, until May of 1986. It was in 1986 that Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii and his team at Chunsoft achieved the impossible by condensing a full RPG adventure into a 64KB cartridge for the Famicom. While RPGs were traditionally played on powerful computers with complicated keyboard inputs, Horii managed to simplify the essential mechanics and made an RPG viable on the far less powerful Famicom operated with a simple controller. Combined with the manga-inspired aesthetics and artistic sensibilities of Akira Toriyama, as well as the musical ingenuity of Koichi Sugiyama, the first Dragon Quest game made the RPG genre accessible to the mass audience and nurtured a whole new generation of young RPG fans. The series would go on to become the tidal force that swept Japan off its feet, triggering a wave of RPG mania and inspiring dozens of knockoffs. While an innovative and good game in its own right, the true value of the first Dragon Quest game may stem from the fact that many Japanese recall their early experiences with intense nostalgic fondness. Seeing the world of Dragon Quest for the first time was so impactful. The excitement of adventure, the anxiety when confronting a strong enemy, and the sense of accomplishment after defeating it. Everything was so new and fresh. I first played this game at my cousin's house. Although my brother and I didn't usually get along, this game was so interesting that we were united in asking our parents to buy it for us. When we got stuck in the game, we would call our cousins for help. This game connected cousins who were not able to meet often, and bonded siblings who didn't get along. For the first time, you were not just playing as Mario or Pac-Man, as you get to name the main character and become the hero that saves the world. There was an emphasis on story, script, and dialogue. You get to interact with NPCs and they address you by your chosen name. Without the first Dragon Quest game, JRPGs as we know today would not have existed. This game paved the way for design elements such as menu selection, inventory management, and turn-based combat. Not to mention the often rehashed coming-of-age story of a young hero seeking to save the princess and the world. Playing the first Dragon Quest game is akin to playing a key slice of JRPG history. As one of the most important and influential games of all time, I consider it a vital experience for all newcomers to JRPGs. Furthermore, this game doesn't require substantial time commitment, given its average playthrough duration of 9 to 10 hours. However, the question remains, which version of the game should you play? To start off, we have Dragon Warrior, which was published on the NES in 1989. It was the first official English localization, and it received slightly improved graphics over the original Japanese release. Unfortunately, this version can feel clunky and aesthetically challenging for a modern-day gamer who is used to a polished interface. You can only carry one equipment in each slot at a time, and you have to go through the menu interface to select the option Take before you can open a chest, or Stairs before you can go up or down the stairs. This version also rewards you with less experience points and gold after battle. As such, I would recommend this version only for hardcore fans who are seeking the most authentic experience and who do not mind spending more hours grinding in order to complete the game. Next, we have the Super Famicom version, which was released only in Japan in 1993. This was bundled together with Dragon Quest II, and it can be played with an English fan translation patch found online. I honestly enjoyed this version of Dragon Quest the best because the overall graphics looked the most coherent with beautiful colours, while the MIDI soundtrack was well composed with rich tones. Although it lacks the charm of pseudo-Elizabethan English, the fan translation is serviceable and rather faithful to the original Japanese text. There were also quality of life improvements over the NES version, as the hero is now able to carry multiple weapons and has access to storage service. Various shrines and temples were also given unique sprite designs instead of a generic looking staircase, while some dungeons have been redesigned to increase the scale and details of the environment. This version is also less tedious to play because experience points and gold dropped by monsters have increased, while the EXP required to level up has decreased. I can honestly say that the Super Famicom version is my favourite. I highly recommend it to anyone who just wants to play a beautiful and polished game while gaining a better understanding of the original Japanese text. Next, we have the Game Boy Color release in year 2000. This version used an entirely new translation different from the original Dragon Warrior, and the names were translated to be closer to the original Japanese. For example, Erdrick has been changed to Loto, while Dragon Lord was changed to Draco Lord. Due to the technical constraints of the Game Boy Color, a lot of the text in the game has been shortened and it can feel overly simplistic at times. The graphics and soundtrack also suffered a drop in quality compared to the Super Famicom version. While it boasts of additional cutscenes, I only spotted these at the beginning of the game and there was nothing at the end. Overall, this version is not my favourite, but I think anyone who has fond memories of the Game Boy Color may find the graphics and 8-bit music appealing. For those who struggle with English as a native language, they will also find this version of the game easy to understand. Finally, we have the controversial mobile ports and the Nintendo Switch version. Since these are almost identical games, I'll be mainly commenting on the Switch version. Graphically, this version was a bit of a letdown, as the character sprite designs do not match the 16-bit environment, while the illustrated art style of the monsters clashed with everything else. Putting that aside, I found the hand-drawn illustrations of the monsters and the surroundings beautiful and visually engaging. This is important to me because the hero actually spends a substantial amount of time in combat against the enemies, and I really enjoyed seeing the different artwork. In terms of the music, the soundtrack can feel somewhat over-orchestrated at times, but the overall quality of the music is great. This version also has the best user interface and features. There is no longer a need to go through the menu to talk to someone or to open the door. There is a very useful autosave function, as well as a world map that you can use as reference. There is also a visual indicator to identify special plot items that can be found in a particular spot. This game is unapologetically much easier to play than the original NES version. And the medieval English translation is humorous and charming. I highly recommend this version to anyone who is playing Dragon Quest 1 for the first time, as long as you have no issue with the incoherent art style of the game. Besides the fact that it's accessible and affordable, buying the Switch version will also help convey to Square Enix that there is overseas fan support for the Dragon Quest series. Furthermore, if you are planning to play the upcoming Dragon Quest 3 2D remake, it will be good to familiarize yourself with the official localized names of characters, monsters, and locations. Moving on to basic gameplay tips. No matter which version of the game you play, be sure to save often. I have definitely gotten careless on occasion and died a couple of times, and as a result, I lost half my gold. If you don't want to lose your gold, be sure to deposit them at the storage. Speak to each and every NPC that you come across in the game. This is how you get hints and directions on where to go or what to do next in order to progress in the game. Once you learn the healing spell at level 3, there is no longer a need to stay at the inn. After you heal yourself and run out of MP, just head back to the starting castle and speak to the old wizard to get a full restore of your MP. If you accidentally equipped a cursed item, you can go to the old wizard located at the starting town to get him to help remove the curse for your hero. This is an open world game, so go ahead and explore. Just bear in mind that each time you cross a bridge, the enemies get stronger. Be sure to get the best equipment in each town that you arrived at. Then, fight the enemies in the area until you can take them out easily before moving on. Feel free to sell your old equipment after you get the new ones. Don't worry, the game will not allow you to sell important plot items. This game requires grinding. While the level up requirements in the modern versions are not as difficult as the original NES version, there is still a need to fight battles constantly in order to earn gold and experience points. I would say that fighting enemies and grinding take up more than 60% of the game. By the time you face the final boss, you should be at least level 19 and above so that you have mastered all the available magic spells. In summary, Dragon Quest I can feel archaic and dated, but it is a simple and straightforward game that contains all the fun and comfort that you would expect in a classic JRPG. I hope you will give it a shot and enjoy the game as much as I did. If you found this video interesting, I would appreciate it if you could press like and subscribe to my channel for more videos on JRPGs. Thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments which version of the game you prefer and why. This is JRPG Otaku, and wishing you a great day. Peace!